All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so we are going to do so. Again, there is a lot here to go over. But before we get started, remember you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document here. That is all over. Right here underneath the thumbnail. Just look for today's thumbnail. They will take on Nato, according to Poland. And of course, you can find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. To go straight into it, a senior EU official warns of huge security risk in Europe over Christmas as Israel-Hamas war rages. Now, this is essentially what we just covered over on the other show in the U.S. We have Christopher Wray, the FBI, everybody's favorite FBI director, I might add. No sarcasm, right? Saying that there are threats everywhere, that they've never seen so many threats. Now, mind you, there's many people that are saying, oh, they're totally full of it. But remember, if you do believe in Fantastic Freddy's, then somebody's got to make them, right? It says Europe faces a huge risk of T attacks and over the Christmas holiday period due to the fallout from the war between Israel and the militant group Hamas. The European Union Home Affairs Commissioner warned on Tuesday. Now, 20 years ago, if they said this, people would be absolutely freaking out. But now, over the last 10 years, it doesn't matter what side you're on, people do not believe the news. It's actually, it looks like it's something coming from outside of our country because it is so insane that today, now people do not believe any news. They even do polls where it's like, oh, well, we believe this news, but we don't believe that news. It never used to be that way. 20 years ago, it wasn't like, oh, I believe NBC and CBC and CNN, but I don't believe Fox, BBC, and this. Now it is literally that. People have zero trust for this, most trust for that, and then both sides of the news are covering completely different angles of the same story. So everybody is freaking confused. Not to mention there is no actual facts anymore. It's not about facts. It's mostly about feelings. And of course, right now, they are telling us something extremely serious. All over the world, they're saying that there's a threat of T attacks. Why are they saying that? 20 years ago, you would think, okay, if they're actually saying this, they must have some information. Like, why would they tell the public, possibly affect all of the world's stock markets if the USA and Europe are actually saying this? This is going to scare the crap out of people. Why are they actually saying this? Unless maybe they are trying to save their own butt, or there is something coming down the pipeline, and who knows? Maybe they knew about it before, or they known about it, or they wrote about it, whatever. And it says the warning came as French investigators probe a fatal weekend attack near the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Questions were raised about the mental health of the suspect, who swore allegiance to the IS group before stabbing a German Filipino tourist and took his life and injuring two other people with a hammer. It says, with the conflict between Is and Hamas and the polarization it causes in our society with the upcoming holiday season, there's a huge risk of attack in European Union. Now, I want to point out the words they used here, the polarization it causes. I want to bring you back to a comment that Mr. Billy said, Mr. Gates said, I realize that the polarization may bring an end to it all. And then says, we're going to have a hung election and we are going to have a civil conflict. Only said civil war, right? Didn't say we may or we might. And maybe he meant to say we may or we might. If you go to fact check that quote, they say still unproven, but they don't say it's false. They don't say it's true. They don't say it's false. And I believe that is because it is true. But again, that was because it was an interview, and it was like, well, how can you tell if the interview was deleted and they either that or they changed it, right? I don't think the fact checkers wanted to put false on it, because then people could go, wait, hold on, I have the original article here with his original quotes, and I have the original tape of this right here. That's why I think that they did in that case. I think they took it down after people really, I don't think they realized everybody would notice that. And the reason why that's important is what is happening right now. We are right before the next, drop a ballot in the box and pick our prez, and all of a sudden, all of this stuff is going down. We've got diseases and all sorts of things going around, and pneumonia, and a conflict almost in every part of the world. Now they're prepping us for South versus North Korea. Now they're talking about Taiwan versus China, Japan versus China, us versus China. And we have people possibly coming over our border right now that mean us much harm. They're even talking about Venezuela taking over one of its neighbors, Guyana. It's just getting absolutely nuts. So again, this is a big threat, or they're saying that there's a big threat to the European Union and to the area over there. So not too fun. We're going to talk about this and much, much more tonight on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, so just another reminder, make sure to go check out all of our wonderful mods. I just saw that we have Rip Curl, we have Trinity here, we have Jammer. They all have great channels. Last night we had Ilea. We've had a great turnout lately. Thank you so much. Somebody just asked about CJ Blaze. CJ Blaze has got a lot going on. She's got a family and all sorts of things going on, and she makes great videos. So make sure to go check out her channel over there as well. She covers a lot of the 5th generation cell tower stuff. So make sure to go check out her channel. And then, of course, you got a ton more right here. So make sure to go check out all of our friendly mods. They are awesome. And let's get right back into the news, and let's have Dex cover it. Speaking of Dex, my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine. Well, close to it.
Well, do you want to go over Poland issues shocking warning of upcoming Russian attack?
Yeah, so this is interesting. It's a big statement coming from Poland, but they are literally warning of an impending attack. But the timeline is rather large. They're saying within the next 3 years. But still, it's a very strong statement. They obviously feel like um, NATO is going to be hit, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. And 3 years is really not that far off. It may be far off in the amount of time we think about when we're just dealing with current events at the moment. We can easily just say, "Oh, that's tomorrow. We're not going to worry about it," but it will be here before you know it, and it could be at any time, to be honest. So, for them to make this statement, I think it comes, it's also coming at a time when we're seeing a lot of things start to wind down, or at least the rhetoric is winding down on support for UKR. So then that sort of then asks, where does it go from here? Does everybody just pack up and go home? Or does the Warhawks keep things going? And, will the Middle East be enough, or will they say, no, we're going to maintain a European theater? And is that what this is a preface to? Something bigger coming from. So, he did say if we want to avoid war, NATO countries on the eastern flank should adopt a shorter 3-year time horizon to prepare for confrontation. This is the time when a potential must be created on the eastern flank. That would be a clear signal deterring aggression. Therefore, it is necessary to further increase the number of Polish troops. So, obviously, not just a warning this may happen, but also a calling of increasing the amount of troops across that border. And it's not just his, it's everything on the NATO border against Russia. So that would be Finland and the rest.
We were talking about this in the last show, Dick Durbin said on the Senate floor said that they are putting through a bill or trying to get a bill through that says that if you are illegal in this country, that if you could pass the physical, that you would be able to join the military, serve a full term, and then get citizenship from that. Now, that in itself, I know people are torn on that. But if you think about it, if they did more sacrifice than the average U.S. citizen, like they actually served the country, I guess they would have more of a say. But that is kind of crazy. That means, does anybody just come over here? People just come over here anyways and just straight up come over. But if they had to come over and then join the military, I don't know. I'm hearing some people say that would fix the system, because if you had to join the military to get citizenship, if you weren't legal, I wonder how many people would still do it. But at the same time, it's like if you do serve for a country, it does kind of it leaves your mark on it. Like you did your service. You did 4 years of service for that country. A lot of countries consider that. A lot of countries actually have a mandatory service time period. I think South Korea has 2 years that you have to serve your country in some potential, right? But with this, it's like they're telling us that there's threats to the U.S., there's threats to the European Union. Poland, the head of their NSA, their national security agency, which is the Polish NSA, is saying that there will be an attack on the West, on NATO, and that they should shorten the timeline. And he's not talking like it's this is something that may happen. He's talking like, oh no, it was guaranteed to happen, but now it's going to happen within 3 years. So we should shorten that length of getting ready for an actual confrontation. I don't think it would just be Russia. I think it would be Russia, China. I think it would be Iran. I think it would be Cuba. I think it would be Venezuela. I think it would be South Africa. And I think it would possibly be India that is at our doorstep, right? I think all of these countries are tired of being number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They want the USA out of the way. I just wonder, is it going to happen faster than 3 years? This all could be Ganda, but that's, of course, what 90% of people are going to say, because they consider everything to be Ganda. I know that there are true and real things that are happening, but they shape it. Well, everything is shaping our minds, getting us prepared mentally for a massive war. So I don't think they're preparing us for the end of the world, which people very closely, tie into each other. This isn't the end of the world. This is the start of the new one. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's go over to the chat for a second. Let's do a quick roll call earlier in the show. Thank you, by the way. Thank you, Zenwen. Thank you to a few. We actually have a few new members. Thank you so much, OG Stoner Time. And somebody else was up there too. Can't see because thing is in my way. Gary Stoven says, for Marf plus coffee. For Dex, not very often I catch a live show in Scotland. Good to go. Got to go to work soon. Thanks for the show. Well, Gary, thank you for stopping by. And I understand that in Scotland or in Australia or some of the other countries that watch us from around the world, it's a weird timing. Probably afternoon for you guys, I'm assuming. Mimi Carstill from New Zealand. That's another one. Thank you, Mimi Carstill, and I appreciate that. Thank you or no, that's not New Zealand, is it? That's South African. The Tsar is South African. Am I right, Mimi? That is South African, I believe. Right. Either way, lots of great people from all over the world watching. So thank you guys for being here. And then just to reiterate that, Polish NSA is saying that, and they could be as shady as our NSA, is saying that Russia is going to attack the West. What does that mean? And then nightmare for Putin as Russians get effing tired of war. So this is the Daily Beast, and you can't say anything without being accused of carrying the water. I think that this is Ganda, and the reason why is if you look, there's a reason why we can't access their news, their media, their anything. When they cut off that information, they can basically tell you whatever they want is going on over there. And then obviously people will feel a whole lot better if, this guy's a tyrannical ruler, a despo, and that he is a piece of crap, which again, Vlad's a bad guy in general. But do people in Russia, are they totally against this war? Well, they just showed us video of when what's his face was going through the streets, the whole town came out and cheered for them. Just as we would if our soldiers came walking down the street, we would cheer for them because we have pride for our country and pride for our soldiers, right? Well, over there, their pride for the motherland is no joke. So I don't know if they're tired of the war. In fact, some of the polls that went out over there that nobody covered over here was, do you approve of this conflict? And most people said that Russia wasn't doing enough, that Vladimir was being too soft, that he should have been doing more, which is pretty scary if you ask me, because they're telling us that this is, basically a nightmare, right? That people hate it. The trend began last month. It says Russia's relentless TV propaganda has entered a heavily depressed new era. The trend began last month when audio of a duo of Russian pranksters apparently tricking the Italian prime minister into making an unguarded remark surfaced. In the clip, which was recorded in September, Vladimir Kuznetsov and Alexei Storyov, known as Vovin and Lexus, are posing as African diplomats, and a voice that sounds like Melanie candidly admits that fatigue has set in. With respect to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It says there is a lot of tiredness on all sides. For weeks afterwards, the Russian state media has publicized the call in continuation of the latest propaganda narrative that the West is tired of UKR and wants to negotiate a deal with the Kremlin. Well, technically that's true. It says Russian talking heads proudly assert that Moscow is not interested in any deals to pontificate about invading any other countries to continue the expansion of the Russian Empire. It says this preposterous propaganda is designed to obscure a crucial detail, that the Russians are also sick and tired of an invasion conceived by their perennial leader with no end in sight. So they're saying that the Russians are sick and tired of it. Mind you, they might be pissed off about the money that's being spent but again, Russia spends half of their GDP on military already, so it's nothing new to them. As far as us, we are sending money to a country that we have basically no civilian here has ties to unless you have family in Ukraine. We don't know why people are there, and it only took a few months for people to start asking, like, why are we doing this? Why are we stopping this? The one reason they give us is because if we don't stop them now, then Russia's going to steamroll over UKR, take over Europe, and then we're going to have to deal with Russia being basically saying that they're going to take over our allies. There's never been a thing saying that they're going to take over Europe and then take over the USA. Either way, we keep our word and protect our allies, but at the same time, Ukraine is not part of NATO. We're not obligated to protect them. So why are we sending all of our money when we are broke? We don't even have the money right now. Our government is shutting down almost every other year. Why the heck are we helping somebody else when we have so many problems inside our own home? That's what people don't understand. We still have huge problems. I mean, even if you just take a couple of the factoids, like how many kids don't eat in the United States right now, that could be easily fixed with the money that just went to somewhere else. That's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Stormblade X69 Wags. Much love, Adam Dex Mods and Foogs. God is great always. Hey, nice to see you, and thank you. And I believe it says that that's your 10th super. Thank you on our channel. Thank you. Thank you, Zen1 AZ, Scrappy Dappy Doo. Thank you, Christian and Starry Night. And thank you, Survival Living. Chanel Bivaliqua, for your support this week. Appreciate you. And of course, everyone that just joined us. We've got a lot of people that just piled in. Thank you guys. And then Dex, do you want to talk about Putin to visit Saudi Arabia and the UAE on Wednesday?
Yeah, so it's kind of a rare trip, as they're calling it. He's going to the Middle East, and I believe, obviously, it's kind of right in the middle of all this tension that's going on in the Middle East. So, and he's on his way to meet with the UAE and Saudi Arabia to have some discussions. I don't know per se what he's going to talk about, but I think we can all sort of get the gist that we've seen Saudi spend so much more time with Xi in China, and their idea of being part of BRICS, and what other opportunities they may have in the oil uh, sectors, which obviously is near and dear to their heart, where they make all their money, will probably be a big part of it. But I would expect to hear some rhetoric come from him around what's happening with Israel as well.
So, and another thing is, we pointed out that Xi Jinping was treated like royalty when he went to Saudi Arabia. They rolled out a red carpet for him. No joke, an actual red carpet. And now let's see how they treat Putin when he ends up visiting Saudi Arabia. We will see where all of their loyalties lie. Of course, the U.S. has taken this crazy left turn, and in the last few years, it's all been about saving the world at the same time as separating from any kind of fossil fuels. But the whole plan to do that isn't that great, or at least isn't that thought out, because there's a lot of problems with it. A lot of folks have been coming up with reason after reason why it's going to be just as bad or nearly as bad to do so. Before we move on, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. If you want your car to run after an EMP, this is one of the few ways you can actually protect yourself. This is a device that will ground the signal of all three phases of an EMP or a Carrington level event from the sun, a solar flare, in less than 500 trillionths of a second. It's not even imaginable how short of a time period that is. 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device, and that way you can still roll and get out to bug out, or if you work far from home, to get home to bug in. If you're planning on getting out of town when anything goes down, then you definitely want to have something like this, because otherwise you won't be able to. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and you'll get $50 off. Plus, you'll help support our channel. We're independent. We're on our own. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have the Foogle fam. So thank you guys. And thank you to the Mafia that has already went through EMP Shield. Make sure to tell people how easy it is. It takes about 10 minutes to put in your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, RV. And then they, of course, make a home version, and they also make a generator version. They also make a solar generator version in the case of the Energy Flex 1500. All right. And then Dex, frustrated by JB's response to the attacks in the Red Sea.
There's definitely a divide right now over this topic between the DoD and the politicians, mostly, obviously, the Biden admin. But what we talked about yesterday, where the story said one thing early on, and then the story changed again with respect to what happened in the Red Sea, with the attack against the ships, and some speculating the attack against the Carney directly. I think what we're seeing here is that, and again, this is under anonymity, but they were granted permission to speak under anonymity, as it's being said, from the DoD. That, hey, look, you've got even Jake Sullivan, you've got the president, you've got everyone else saying that they didn't think that our ship was under attack, but we were under attack, and we don't like the way they're downplaying what's happening there, because what there's the military is basically saying, hey, what's happening to us here is very serious, it's a very real threat, and you got to believe that if we see another drone or another missile coming our way, we're going to take immediate action and protect ourselves. But they're upset with the rhetoric that's kind of flowing out with the media, more so from the administration, that's trying to downplay this and say, well, we don't really know if they were attacking them. We don't really think that they were being attacked. They were just, they got involved, and they're sort of downplay. They're trying to downplay it and make it look like it's not something as big as it legitimately is. And that's what I said yesterday. And I think you said the same thing, Adam, is this is a bigger escalation than they're really telling us, and or they want us to know. And this is the kind of thing that it's pretty shocking to be like, why are we not, as the strength and power that we are from a military point of view, dealing with this with a heavy hand and putting an end to it? We don't normally sit around and take some lickings or let this continue on.
Two anonymous officials told major mainstream, what was it, Reuters or AP or New York Times, that we were attacked, that one of our ships was hit, that it was attacked. And they made it like this ship showed up to protect the 3 commercial boats that got hit, and then ended up and they didn't even throw in there that it got hit. But they're saying that it got hit and attacked by these forces, which I bet if it was a remote controlled drone, that it wasn't an accident. It's not like they just throw it out to the water and hope it hits something. It hit it on purpose. And they're telling us, oh, yeah, it's all good. It's like they're trying to keep the majority of the United States in the dark about the coming war. They want you to be stupid until the last second, which is so dumb because other countries like Poland and many others, they're telling their people to prepare. They're telling people to prepare for World War III. Local grocery stores are holding classes in Europe that they can teach you what kind of food to keep and how to preserve food. It's like here you're called a nut. You're called a conspiracy theorist, and you're poo-pooed as you're an idiot, right? Because everybody has this attitude that, oh, that's just fear this, fear that. But it's like at the same time, the preppers are the ones that are the least afraid. Everybody else, they go along with the media, roller coaster. When, the media is freaking them out, they're freaked out. And when the media tells them to be calm, they're calm. Preppers should be right here. They should be solid, right? When the hype circus is up at the top, you're still here. When it says it's calm, you're still prepping. You're still aware of your surroundings. Have you noticed that the people around you, they'll get super afraid when, like, the news for CV or the news for all of this, they'll be super scared. I mean, how many people were sanitizing their cereal boxes before they brought them home? At the same time, 3 months later, they were like, oh, I don't need to wear this. Oh, I don't care about it. Oh, it's so stupid. They're hyping it up. And that's because they followed the circus of the roller coaster. Our point here is that you should keep a solid, just straight line, approach to prepping and to have a plan for if this all goes down. I say if, I mean when. Like, that's my opinion. I believe this is going to happen. And like I've said many times, vindication will not, you guys won't be able to, we won't be able to get our vindication. Like, you won't be able to tell us thank you. So I hope, we talk to a lot of military here, active duty military. They're all prepping for war. The people that work at DHS, the people that work at FEMA, they all have go bags in their car. Think about that. Why are they prepping? Why are all the richest, most elite people getting backup passports and these Plan B passports? They're not doing it because nothing's coming. Thank you. Kingdoms of Erden says, love y'all. Camelot playing cards on Kickstarter. Huh. Camelot. I love Kickstarters and crowdfunded stuff. There's some of my favorite things in the world. It's items that are limited. Nick says they want to keep us enslaved. They don't. What does that say? They don't want SHTF. Or they don't why SHTF. Nick, sorry, that one word kind of changes the context. So I don't, as far as keeping us enslaved, I 100% agree with that. and that's why they're also going to keep you mentally uh, kept down too. They're gonna keep you calm when they want you calm. They're gonna freak you out when they want to, but then they can ring you back. They can let the leash out and then go whoop, pull you back. And then U.S. announces visa bans after warning Israel on West Bank settler violence. The U.S. Department of State has said that it will impose visa restrictions on Israeli settlers involved in undermining peace, security, and stability in the occupied West Bank. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced the move on Tuesday, one day after the State Department said that Israel has not taken sufficient steps to address settler attacks that have driven many Palestinians off their land. Today, the State Department is implementing a new visa restriction policy targeting individuals believed to have been involved in undermining peace, security, or stability in the West Bank, including through committing acts of violence or taking other actions that unduly restrict civilians' access to essential services and basic necessities. So, Dex, what are they admitting here? What are they saying with this?
They're basically this is basically going against Israel. They're saying, hey, like, you've got citizens there or people there that are doing bad things, and we're gonna go after them by not allowing them to come to America. They're gonna have their visas banned, and they're not gonna be. They request them, they're not gonna have access. It's kind of interesting to see that this flip. I don't know if this is to kowtow to both sides, or if this is a legitimate flip, or what it is. We'll have to see how it plays out. But it is directly going against Israel, so to speak. I mean, ultimately, if you read the lines, you're like, well, yeah, anybody that does that kind of stuff, it shouldn't be a bad thing, and you should not do not want to support that. Bad people don't get rewarded, but at the same time, it's not. I wouldn't have expected this. I wouldn't have from the country that's supposed to be allied so strongly with Israel.
Well, and yeah, and the whole push is the thing that everybody's people have supported one side or the other, and it's a split thing. But what you see is all of these huge hundreds of thousands of people protest are again siding with this group, this T group, and with this group that runs Palestine, Hamas, and it's like in general they see it's all the young people that are watching TikTok, all of this. A lot of them are in support of this because they went through our school system. Look at the same people that are saying that Osama is a great guy and that he was right and all of this. That is because the system within that was pushed by our government and by our mainstream media system, the same system that told us to hate America, that America's bad, that it's structurally broken and racist and all these things. They taught these people to do this, and then now they support a religious country, which again, they've basically the young people are not religious. There's more atheists than there's ever been. There's more immorality out now than ever before in history. I would say that's an easy one. And now people are pushing it back against Christianity. It's a huge thing now. It's like anti-Christian. There's demonic stuff all over news, all over media, all over music and television. And it's like, then the government then goes and supports this religious country and says, like, God bless America type stuff. It's weird. It's like they're purposely pushing, and then supports them, but then says this. It's like they are trying to stir something up. It's like it feels like they're trying to push buttons. You train people to think one way and then support the opposite way of that thinking. The same side that supports everything you do, no matter what it is, then you do the complete opposite of what you know that they're going to support. It's like it seems like this is all very purposeful. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments down below. And then is planning to flood Hamas tunnel network to drive out or drown the terrorists under the strip as they deploy 5 huge pumps. So I don't know if do they have pictures of the pumps? No. These are giant. Somebody else sent me a message with a picture of like a building-sized pump. And I said that that's what they thought they were going to use. so they could pump water into the tunnels and essentially flood them out. But it says that Israeli troops are plotting to flood the tunnel network with seawater in a bid to flush out the terrorists. At least 5 huge pumps have been set up close to the Al Shati refugee camp in Gaza as Israel looks down to take down the terror group following the horror October 7 event. So that's gosh, that's the worst way to go in a claustrophobic space and drowning. Go ahead, Dex.
But it's interesting because we talked about this as one of the plans. There was all these different plans on what to do. With the sponge bomb and the other things, and of course the dogs and the robots, and even the extreme thing was some sort of chemical. But this was one that we had talked about that was more like a legitimate plan because it made a lot of sense, and it was one that had actually been done to the tunnels in Egypt, in the south there, and they had actually done it, and it wasn't that unrealistic. So to see them now moving forward with it, because we talked about this, man, like 2 or maybe the first week after the event, we were talking about this plan. So it's interesting to see that they're now moving forward with it.
Well, we'll see if they actually do it though, because they've said all sorts of different plans, and it sounded like, oh well, we're gonna be able to flush them out. We're gonna put gas, or we're gonna do this or that. They've said all sorts of things that they would possibly do to empty out these tunnels. I think even the average person is starting to feel it now. More and more people are preparing, but once it pops off, those were prepared with stuff aren't prepared emotionally. Even worse, lone wolf. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, and one point that a lot of people say is make sure to tell people to prepare spiritually for what's going to happen. Not to mention, if you are out and proud prepper, um, everybody has their own way of solving this. The people that are going to come knocking on your door. Now, I know a lot of Christians that say, I will let every person in that wants help. But when you have a month supply of food for 3 people or something, and you have 10 people come knocking on your door, I don't think people are going to realize if you are the loud and proud prepper in your family or in your group of friends and you're always on top of this stuff, I think that people are going to say that they're going to help everybody, but it's going to change real quick when SHTF happens, because there are going to be people knocking at your door. You're going to see people knocking at your door that you haven't seen in years. And they're going to go, I know that one guy. I know he does this. That's why they tell preppers not to show your stash, not to show what you have, how much you have, where you keep it, that kind of stuff. But then I hear the other side argue, oh, well, no, then I'll starve after 3 days if I share it with 10 people. When it comes down to it, I think people are going to change a lot. And that, like they say, your neighbor could be a pastor, but he will turn into a common thief when this all hits. Because people are going to get desperate, especially those that are not prepared. When the lights go out, we're not going to have water. The water supply is what kills off most of the people. 90% would perish in a grid down event because of the water supplies. It's going to be the water structure that really takes us down. And you know what's crazier is all of the hacks that we've covered on the water supplies. Heck, all they have to do is take out the water supplies and they will screw us up severely. If they did a massive coordinated event on all of our water supplies, which I don't think they could do, they could, put something in it. But if they, I wonder if they could do something or contaminate it or do something to where it would not be fixable for a year, and do it nationwide. I don't think that's possible without a grid down. So, that's something to think about. And let's see here. U.S. Navy responds after China claims American warship illegally intruded into the South China Sea. Dex,
You can guess what that response is, right?
I said it last night, didn't I?
Yeah. They were, quote, conducting routine operations in international waters consistent with international laws, end quote. It's exactly what you'd expect. But the point is, look, China sent their ships in. They started to trail the USS Gabriel Giffords, and they were claiming that it was in their waters. Of course, the United States Navy 7th Fleet denied those accusations, and this saga continues in the South China Sea between the Philippines, China, and of course us. We're always in the middle of it because we're the big bad wolf to them.
I think I've read this so many times that last night I quoted it word for word. Was conducting routine operations in international waters consistent with international laws. Like it's so funny because China and US have done this back and forth so many times. So and some people take this serious. Like I got emails of this, like, oh, they just went in Chinese waters. And I emailed back. I said, this happens a lot. Like I've covered this 10 million times. So much so that I said this before they came out with their response. Last night, you'll go back to the show. I quoted that. And I might have missed a couple words, but conducting routine operations inconsistent with international law. It's because it to the rest of the world it is. To China, China has put out this map. And that's the thing. Before the last time this happened was before they put out that map, which is kind of crazy. We haven't done exactly this where they say we violated it since before they put out that map. They gave the world this map and said, this is our waters now. So technically, if in their eyes, they could enforce it. They could start firing at ships that come in that water because they've put it out to the world. This is our waters. This is where we own. Now, of course, nobody accepts it, so that's probably not going to happen because China probably doesn't want to start a war over this kind of stuff. But that's the thing. Are they just going to do this for 100 years? Every time somebody goes in, they say, this is our land, and then somebody just cruises right through it? Or at some point, do they start enforcing it? I don't know. It's just... that was the least concerning, but out of all of the incursions, the planes flying, and all these things that happen all the time, what's crazy to me is a lot of these things that happen a lot have not been happening. Other stuff has been going on. That's what kind of freaks me out. Is it's not the normal. A lot of things are changing as far as the regular events. This is a regular event. This happens a lot. So this doesn't freak me out because that's something that happens all the time. And then inside a Chinese-built ghost city in Malaysia. We'll talk about this. I managed to escape. But I do want to remind you, so we got really good news from Harvest, right? There was a huge issue over Black Friday. A lot of folks wanted a machine, and they did not have enough of the smaller machines, and now they're completely out. So they ended up extending this for a short period of time. There's a $500 off, not the $300. $300 is already our code, but now they're doing a total of a $500 off on all of the all of their machines. Now they're out of the smallest machine, which is the smallest numbers of trays, I believe. But any of the models above that, there is a huge $500 off. Now people jump on this because, again, 3 years straight, like none of these companies went on sale at all because they were in such high demand that they could barely make enough to actually ship out. So especially with all of the crazy stuff that's going on, these are something that go into this kind of stage of hard to even attain. But right now you can get some, and you can get it at the Black Friday $500 off price until the 10th. The 15th. So you have 10 days. So you do have some kind of breathing room if you wanted to get it in a few days, or if you want to wait a couple weeks until payday or something to put a down payment. So a lot of folks emailed on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, and they asked because this wasn't there, or there was no, the smaller machines were gone. So make sure to go over if you do want. They're doing the $500 off on the other machines, which is huge. Marfooglenews.com/freeze. You can freeze dry your own food. It's the best way to preserve your food, and it can last up to 25 years, 2 decades. That way you can actually, people do this for a hobby. They take custom foods, custom diets. They take their gardens, they freeze dry it, they put it away. You can seal it in Mylar bags. Kind of like the if you don't know anything about this, if you've ever eaten like the space ice cream or packages like that. That's a Mylar bag, and you can seal whatever food. You can seal steaks, you can seal fruit, you can seal everything. And it sucks all of the oxygen, and it does a freeze process that literally preserves almost all of the nutrients. So again, this is a really, really cool way to go. It is an investment. It is for those that are really trying to prep up. It will pay itself off depending on how much prep you are trying to get together. They recommend 6 months of food, and if you have 4 or 5 people in your house, that's going to pay itself off in the first month. But if you're a loner and you just want a 72-hour pack for a go bag or something, then you might want to just go with a pre-packaged thing. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. You'll be helping us out. Plus, again, that special circumstance, they ended up extending the $500 off until the 15th. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. It's a hobby in itself, and a lot of people say it's one of the funnest things they've ever done. As far as there's people that they've made it their life to freeze dry. It's a hobby. It's more than just preserving food. All right, and then Dex, what's up with the ghost city in Malaysia? This is kind of nuts.
Well, apparently, we've talked about them many times, but we've also even mentioned this, but we haven't talked about this particular problem. There are people that live there, just not a lot, like hardly anybody, because that's why they're ghost cities. They made these massively big cities, but there's a few people that live there, and apparently it's unbearable because you're living in such a giant metropolis with no one around you. And this one person was talking specifically about the fact that they had a 6-month rent there in a one-bedroom unit in a 100 billion mega project tower. And he said, it is lonely around here. It's just you and your thoughts. I imagine if you thought you were going to be living in a big city and then you end up in a ghost town, um, that's probably not what you were expecting. I know maybe some people like myself would enjoy the peace and quiet because that's why I don't live in a big city. But that's a different perspective. But anyway, the interesting thing is these properties are still here. On one hand, it is part of their real estate boom problem. On the other hand, there's a lot of questions as to why they built them, as many as they did, and the fact that they even built some and created, things and replicas of other locations around the world, whether it be Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or other locations, metropolises or sites like the Eiffel Tower and other things like that. There's lots of even a Minty Pentagon, I believe, has been created. I don't know if it's in a ghost city, but I know they created one of those over there in China. So, but the ghost cities are definitely a real thing. If you don't know anything about them, check them out. You should look them up. It's worth looking into. An interesting story here about just the loneliness of the few people that actually do have to live in them.
Okay, I want to. There was a video that was put out by a channel I've never seen before, and it said "Walk with me, Tim" or something like this. And you guys can chime in if you've seen this channel. And it's a guy from Paris and his 4 other friends, and they started this thing, the Yes Theory, I think it is. That's what it is. And the Yes Theory goes to the fake Paris ghost town. And at first, it is a literal ghost town. There's nobody there. And here's my thoughts on this. Rip Curl just made a really great comment, said the Chinese government is forcing people to live out in these cities because a lot of them are falling apart. They are falling apart. And if you saw the video that Yes Theory did, what's funny is out in the open, this Parisian neighborhood that has a fake Eiffel Tower, they've made a complete copy, a carbon copy of what Paris looks like, down to the outside architecture, down to the gardens, down to the line up to it. What's crazy is you see it, they get closer to the Eiffel Tower. The closer you get, you've noticed that it's just really decrepit. Nobody's keeping track of the grounds. There's garbage and construction gear. There was a building that was just kind of demolished here and left there. But then they show the shots of, some of the shots look really good. And then they say, this is why I think that that was a paid video or something, like Chinese government paid them to go there and visit, because it shows them and they said, oh, well, we saw on the internet that these are all abandoned, that there's nobody living here. First of all, they only went to this one strip, which is where the main Parisian thing looks like. The units, the only ones that had clothes on them, if you look at that video and you look at the drone shots, the only ones that had clothes hanging off of them were the ones on the main strip where the courtyard is. There was nobody out there. They ran into a couple people. Every person was super nice to them, right? Said, "Oh, hi, hi," and wanted to be on camera. I don't think it was because everybody in that neighborhood is so happy that they live there. When they asked the one woman in this video, they said, "When did you move here?" "Oh, we just moved here." That's kind of weird. "Oh, we just moved in and had family and kids." They do this video, then they come back later that night, and he says, "We came back later that night, and the whole place came alive." And they had a bunch of rolling carts that came out in the same area. So you're telling me that the neighborhood just comes alive at night. Everybody rolls out carts because everybody just starts walking around at night. It does not make sense. Those same places would have their carts set up during the day, whatever else. It doesn't make any sense. So they're going to ruin the Paris attire at night, but they're not allowed to during the day. Nothing about that made sense. Now, when you look at it, they went into one of the units. The one of the units had a porch, and even the guy from Paris said, "Wow, this really does feel like Paris." They stayed in a hotel that had a bunch of Parisian paint. Nobody was there. They showed that there was nobody working there. There was like one person there. Empty hotel, completely empty. Then they got some guy to bring them up for a construction in process, a unit. And they actually had a construction in process and a unit that was for rent. This is so true because I've been fascinated in the ghost cities for a long time, and I know you guys have been too. They showed the inside of it, and it was the crappiest apartment ever. But the outside looks like a Parisian, beautiful architecture. So they do the basic kind of Parisian architecture on the outside. On the inside, these are slums. The wall was like, it just looked like crap. There was no molding, no nothing Parisian. It was a crappy, tiny apartment with this beautiful. Once you step outside, there's a beautiful deck with concrete, whatever they call those, the pillar decks. It's like I believe what Rip Curl says, that they're forcing people to live there because they're falling apart. They're probably saying, if you want state assistance, you've got to move here. If you want to stay on your plan or get a certain stipend from the government, you have to go here. And then when that video crew came there, because it was a big channel, I think it's funny that they left and it's like, oh, maybe they got word that the channel was there. They brought all sorts of people. They had people dancing out in the courtyard. It's like, I don't believe it at all. Watch the video. I will give it to Dex to put on the website. You watch it for yourself and tell me. Maybe these kids were being genuine, like they weren't doing the propaganda, that they were used for the propaganda. Like they were paid, like, "Hey, we just want you to check out our place. See how it is. Is it like Paris?" And they catered the experience and told people prehand, "Hey, we want you to be lively and be friendly," because I just don't believe. And then they spent like hours. It went from light to dark playing with a one group of kids that were out in the courtyard. I get that it's a different country and all, and but these 25-year-old guys were just hanging out with little kids and lifting them up and throwing them around. It just did nothing about it seemed right. So you watch it, be the judge for yourself. But with these ghost cities, right? It really creeps me out because they've made these carbon copies of cities from all over the world, and nobody lives in them. The Parisian guys in this video, they did not wander off past this one strip. They just went down the one road. If you notice it, they took up 35 minutes and they never veered off this one strip. And even on that one strip that's supposed to be upkept, it had places that were just completely unkempt and totally falling apart. It's absolutely nuts. Like, I can't believe they have entire cities capable of housing millions of people, and nobody is in them. That's just nuts to me. That's crazy town. Speaking of crazy town, this is actually really cool. So Dex has known about this Glenn Burns guy for a long time because he is one of the local Georgia, and a lot of you guys from Georgia will probably know this name. Glenn Burns on Facebook ended up posting this and saw some sightings. Dex, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, he's one of our local weather people, and he's been around forever. But he posted something from a friend of his that says What was in the sky? It looked like rockets and fighter planes. It was around 5:43 yesterday on 120. I think they mean I-20, but westbound, causing major traffic. I also saw what I thought was some sort of fighter jet, and it disappeared above me. I got one picture of another plane that looked military. These were visible my whole commute home from Austell to Carroll, which is why I believe it would be I-20. Multiple people at my work saw this too. They thought it was an asteroid too. The first one seemed to stop, and the second one seemed to come out of a slit in the sky and headed eastbound, parallel to I-20. It seemed to be an object with a rocket trail, but came up on the pictures as two lights. Hundreds of people were seeing this, and everyone was braking and almost wrecking. I hope this was military or NASA or SpaceX. I lost sight at the Villarica exit due to the trees. The first object seemed northwest of 20. Second one seemed southwest, headed eastbound. So there's a few of the images that were caught, and there's a few comments here as well about what other people were saying. But interestingly enough, I actually live out this direction. I didn't see it. It's probably because I was in my house, not traveling on the interstate at the time. But rather fascinating story to be told, and lots of other people confirming they've had a lot of military activity, especially out of Dobbins, which is over in Marietta, and which was I think it's an air station now. It used to be a full-on Air Force base. It's no longer that. It was been just Lockheed and the air station using it. But there's also been a lot of other sightings in the area too, and I can attest to that. I've seen many a choppers go through here, but
But
these
the
are not choppers.
description, okay,
The
so
description is much scarier than that.
the description says, and then this is a guy who the city actually does trust and somewhat is reputable in Georgia
And
because
he didn't see it. He is posting it from his friend, but
from his friend
saw it.
Jennifer.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
he's obviously trusting it, and he's putting it out on his page, so he's got a reputation to uphold.
yes, and so he's somewhat of a reputable person, and he's putting out this absolute craziness, and it makes you think like, is he a believer? Because that description alone, and here's what I think. So you read the comments, the responses is, oh, they do this all the time. But what I have noticed on this and Neighbors and a lot of these apps, so somebody will post something like, you know, oh, I just heard gunshots or whatever. And people are like, it's backfire. It's nothing. And every time something pops, you guys do something or post something. There's always these just negative people that want to comment and say it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. I've noticed that on Neighbors and all of these apps, there's always like 10 comments basically saying the opposite of whatever they're posting. No one has imagination whatsoever. But these people says, no, it's military. The military does many training flights out here. We often fly. It's aliens. They're not invading. We're here to rescue us. There are a lot of jets flying over my house in Gilmore, flying lower than they usually do. And this person says, I live far from Dobbins Air Base for 2 days. They were doing practice rounds with huge blasts and could be felt miles away, depending on the weather. Perhaps they were doing practice. If you look at the description of this, nobody is commenting on the fact that it says they thought it was an asteroid too. The first one seemed to stop, and the second one seemed to come out of a slit in the sky. Okay, that doesn't seem normal, military drills. Something doesn't come out of a slit in the sky. So I wonder, it seems odd. Like, obviously, if this gentleman, it's his friend, right? Then this friend is probably somebody he trusts, right? I just wonder, is there going to be more sightings of this? Did you see it? Send us a video. If you have video, or if you want to go check the time period this was, if you're in Georgia, go check your cameras. Go check your Ring doorbell camera or whatever you have. See if you have this on video. I would love to get video of this. You can send it to Marfoogle News, again, .com/play my video. All one word, play my video, and you can submit it. And of course, we'll show it on the show. And then hackers breach U.S. government agencies using Adobe Cold Fusion exploit. So, Dex, what in the heck is Cold Fusion exploit, or Adobe Cold Fusion exploit? What the heck is this?
Well, specifically, they're running on these servers, and it's executing arbitrary code on the version called Adobe Cold Fusion 2018 Update 15 and older. So if you have this older software, and even the 2021 Update 5 and earlier, so either any of those, if you have it, you apparently have the what's called a zero-day exploit, and it's been infiltrating a lot of U.S. government agencies and others. So yes, we've heard a lot about these backdoor accesses or zero-day accesses on Microsoft 365 and things like that. But here's one from Adobe, and what it's used for is or Cold Fusion is a platform for deploying web and mobile applications. So it's like a web building type software. But I guess they're using in the defense agency, they're using this to build web pages and build other applications that they may use internally. But this is server software, that a component of it that runs on a server, and there's these backdoors that are gaining access to, and they're leveraging that to get into the networks and infiltrate their systems. So this stuff is popping up everywhere. We're getting hit left and right, folks.
Yeah, this has been every day that we have covered in, I believe it's been since Thursday of 2 weeks ago. Every show we have had a major hacking event. What the heck is going on here? Uh, it's getting kind of crazy.
It's
But
funny. This is old software too, by the way. Obviously, those
yes,
dates on it. But that's
super
that's the
super
military
old.
for you, because they don't move fast. So if they get something approved, they use it forever.
Yeah, and they probably use DOS in some of those offices, I'm sure. They actually talked about how the nuclear systems were using some sort of ancient, like 1998, some sort of app. But it made sense because it was so old school. It wasn't vulnerable. Heck, if it's not vulnerable, they probably shouldn't evolve it.
Probably doesn't have a TCP/IP stack, so it can't be connected to the internet.
Oh yeah, I know. TCPI, yeah. Pick attack, yeah. I know exactly. Um, marfugelnews.com/energy. If you guys haven't checked out Energy, this is again the solar generator that we recommend. This is one of the most badass generators on the market. It is expandable and it is also modular, meaning you can change it like Legos. Just want to clarify. No, I don't know anything about. He just spoke Spanish basically. But one thing I do know is about the Flex 1500 is an awesome solar generator. It's very easy to use. It is one of the simplest units to use. You just put out your solar panels, plug one cord in like basically like a Christmas lights. If you have multiple panels, you daisy chain it like Christmas lights and then plug it in. And as long as you have that facing the sun, it will start gaining power and then storing it on the battery cells. What else is really cool is you can use this as a battery bank as well, and you can charge it from the wall. In fact, with the UPS power charger or rapid charger, you can actually charge it 1,000 watt battery, a whole battery, in about 45 minutes. It actually does, I think, 1,200 watts per hour with the UPS rapid charger, and it turns the whole machine into an uninterrupted power supply. Meaning, if your fridge is plugged into this is plugged into the wall. Again, it will not hurt the battery. It will go straight through to the wall. And then when your power goes out, it will immediately switch right over to the generator. That is a really cool feature for, again, for a solar generator to do. And you can add it. If you don't need it, then you don't want it. You don't have to have it. That's the cool part. There's all sorts of these mods that work like Lego, and you can add them or subtract them. If you want to lose a couple pounds, then take it out and take it in your car and go to work with it. Use it for your power tools, or use it for, playing a movie in the woods on a camping trip or something. Light your camping site. This is a really, really cool unit. Not to mention, it will really come in clutch because it is silent. Nobody can hear it from 3 blocks away, and you won't have to deal with gas or fuel. There are pros to gas-powered generators as well. In the dream world, you would have both as a backup. But again, if you want to get one, these are not easily attainable, and I bet in the future they're going to be even harder to attain because of the lithium wars going on. So go to marfugelnews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only will you save, but you'll help our channel at the same time. It's a win-win for everybody. Ready, Set, Survive says, again, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, the next name, Stephen Williams says, I think that in the future, we are not going to have, hold on, is that right? In the future, I don't think that we are going to have the internet. Yeah, I I agree with that. I think at some point this whole thing is going to crumble, but we'll see. And then Elon Musk's AI firm XAI files to raise up to $1 billion in equity offering. It says Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup XAI filed with its U.S. securities regulator to raise up to $1 billion in an equity offering, according to a filing on Tuesday. The company has raised $134.7 million in equity financing from a total offering of about $1 billion. It says the filing with the Security Exchange Commission showed. Fundraising for AI remains a bright spot for startups this year, following OpenAI's launch of popular chatbot ChatGPT last year and raising $10 billion from its strategic backer, Microsoft Corporation. Of course, strategic backer. Again, it's scary that Microsoft has one of the biggest chunks of this new technology. Think about that. I'm very glad that there's going to be competitors. I don't like AI at all, but AI run by, in some part by Mr. Gates is even scarier. It says regulators, however, are concerned about the potential use of the technology to spread misinformation. It says Musk has been vocal about his plans to build safer AI. In Twitter Spaces event earlier in the year, he said that rather than explicitly programming morality into its AI, XAI will seek to create a maximally curious AI. The billionaire, who has criticized big tech's AI effort ridden with censorship, in July launched XAI, calling it a maximum truth-seeking AI to rival Google's Bard and Microsoft's Bing. So, and remind you that, of course, Musk helped start OpenAI, the other ChatGPT, and basically left. They weren't seeing eye to eye or something like that, but he's no longer a part of that. So now he's starting this other thing, and he's talked about calling it Grok. Over the last week, he has been in the news a lot because he just went on the New York Times book summit thing with that one guy. Apparently, that guy was his friends. At first, I only saw the small clip. I ended up watching that whole interview of what they were talking about, and it really seemed like they were trying to get him to basically explain things. They set it up in such a way, and his supposed friend was setting it up. I don't know. Maybe they thought that they were going to help him get back on the horse or something, but then it derailed. I don't know. If you watch that whole interview, he's basically saying F you to all the advertisers. One thing that I see, if it could be nefarious, is all of these companies pull out advertising for it, and it does fail. Like he said, oh, it will fail, but then the people will know that it failed because of the government and the companies, and it will be their fault that free speech is gone and stuff. I could see them failing, then shutting down or becoming irrelevant, and then all of a sudden, we don't have a platform to actually speak on. It would be an easy exit for one of the very few platforms where you can actually, say things still to this day. And he still looks like the hero, and he looks like the victim. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but I don't know if it will fail though. But Grok is supposedly modeled after. It's going to be modeled after the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy type thing. I don't know how that works, but Dex, did you find that's odd that he ended up modeling it somehow related to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? In that movie, the Earth is wiped out for a highway, for an intergalactic highway.
It's nothing he does seems surprising when it's odd like that, because it's just like anything like that stuff is right up his alley. Yeah, and yeah, I think his latest thing was he was talking about the new Grand Theft Auto coming out, and he doesn't like the violence in it. I mean, he's always into something.
But he posts about killing 5,000 snakes in Diablo. That's kind of funny.
But he raced a Porsche, towing a Porsche, right? Isn't that the latest one with the Cybertruck and beat it?
Well, the Cybertruck, I think it is ugly, but I think it is so cool as like a SHTF vehicle. If that thing, because it's kind of like a Resvani. I think it's cool. I mean, how cool would it be to have a car that's bulletproof or that's,
Not EMP proof.
well, you don't know that. I don't know.
If it was, I think he would brag about it. You can't put an EMP shield in it because it's not 120 volt or 12 volt. It's like its own power system, which is, multiple different voltages. You can't regulate it with a device like that.
Well, if it's not
So
EMP
he'd have to build it himself or work with them and build a custom thing. But I would expect, just like he talks about how great the glass is, he would probably talk how shielded it is from an event like that. But he doesn't.
Have you guys seen I know there was a giveaway for one. They were going to give away a Resvani, but if you've never seen the Resvani, it is a gas powered, right? It is gas powered. It's not diesel, is it? Resvani, and they call it the Resvani tank.
Yeah, it's a beast. That's a dream bug out vehicle for sure.
Yeah, and
it's probably what Bezos and all of them. They probably all have multiple Resvanis sitting in their bug out locations or en route to them.
Yeah, you'll probably never see this on the road, but I actually think this is one of the coolest. Like the Cybertruck, it just looks so freaking. It just looks so. But I don't know. I haven't seen it in person. The other thing though is if you see the truck, and because they say it's really big, that it looks like some sort of tank or futuristic tank out of like Judge Dredd. But this thing's big. It is, I believe this is bulletproof too, right? It's like bulletproof. It's EMP. It's everything. And this is not an ad. Nobody can afford this. This is like $400,000. But this thing is cool. Would you guys drive that or would you not? It's kind of like I don't know, like a badass Jeep mixed with like I don't even know what to say that looks like. It looks like a Jeep mixed with a truck mixed with a Rivian. I don't know. And it is 500 horsepower. But yeah. Oh, 1,000 horsepower. Yeah, that thing's pretty cool with a demon engined SUV. Yeah, I guess there's a downside. But look at the back. I don't know. Got a horrible what do they call that? The Y frame? A frame? Is that what that's called? There's no visibility out the back of that thing. And these huge pillars here. Not the best visibility, but I guess you don't need them. You'd rather have bulletproof protection around you. Would you drive it? Would you rock it? 1 for yes, 2 for no. All right, Dex, do you want to tell folks how to get to the sources?
Oh, absolutely. It's so simple. Go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or hit the show notes link. It's right down below in the description. It'll take you right to the page that we put together for you every day that backs up this show. And you can find everything, including that Glenn Burns article, all of the information, the link to that Glenn Burns story that's over on Facebook, everything. It's all there. Looking for the sources, marfooglenews.com.
Thank you, everybody, for making it tonight. And again, thank you for also coming to the Marfoogle News Short. Make sure to watch that over on our sister channel. If you are having a problem finding our other channel, type in the @ MFN. MFN for Marfoogle News. If you do @MFN, it will immediately bring you to our other channel on YouTube. That is our handle. It's a very specific thing. If you type that in, it's supposed to bring you exactly to our channel. Nowhere else, because people are having a problem even finding us, or at least that other channel. So type in @MFN and make sure to subscribe. A lot of folks told us over the last month that they hit subscribe, they would refresh, and it would be unsubscribed, that the subscribe button was broken. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, again, please do check. Or if you're subscribed, make sure and double check that you are. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, make sure to check out our mods. Thank you, everybody in chat. Much love to everyone. We got Bobby Sue stuck all the way through. Shastina stuck all the way through. Rashid, thank you. Blue Knight Grinner, Alice Leslie. I want to be forwarded. Well, news forwards you into here. I don't know if that's what you mean. Jay LSC, thank you. I'm Crazy Brumfield, Carol, Rudy Ramos, Sky House, and Aunt Jenny. Thank you guys. Over on D Live, thank you so much to everybody over there. Jammer, Kimbria, Skyhouse, Chance Paladin, Light of Vibes, One Up B, Johnny Chuck. Of course, we've got DFW Jackie, Poco Loco, and DFW Jackie says, love my fam. Well, we love you too, and thank you. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Thank you to everybody that has made it tonight. We're gonna make a fresh one, and my nose and my whole system is all messed up. Let's see if we can make something decent that's listenable. Thank you, Major, Marantha, Carrie Edwards, Stealth Mode, and everyone else that's joining us over on Jams. Thank you to our top supporter tonight. I believe. Let's see here. That would be. That would be Ready, Set, Survive and Mimi Carstel. Thank you, Mimi Carstel. Appreciate you.